Have you ever stood in the ruins of your own life, surrounded by the debris of your best efforts, and asked the silent cosmos a single, burning question? Why me? Why must my path be paved with so much struggle, so much resistance, so much pain? You feel a calling deep within your bones, a sense of a grander purpose, yet the world seems to meet your every step forward with the force of a hurricane. This is the great paradox of the chosen one, and today, we will not just answer this question. We will dismantle it. We will give you the Stoic key that turns the heaviest chains of suffering into the very wings you need to ascend. You feel it as an echo in a quiet room, don't you? A persistent hum of otherness. You watch others navigate their lives with a seemingly effortless ease, their boats sailing on calm, predictable waters. Meanwhile, your ship is perpetually caught in a tempest. Every victory is hard-won. Every moment of peace feels like a temporary truce with a universe that demands more from you. You have built beautiful things in your heart and in your life, only to watch the storms of circumstance, betrayal, or inexplicable loss wear them down to dust. You are the builder who is never allowed to see their temple completed, and the loneliness of that reality is a weight few could ever comprehend. This constant struggle nurtures a profound and venomous seed of doubt within your soul. It is the shadow that whispers to you in the dead of night, after a failure, after a heartbreak, after a moment of profound exhaustion. The whisper says, "What if you are not chosen but cursed? What if this immense potential you feel is just a grand delusion, a cosmic joke? What if the suffering isn't forging you but simply breaking you? What if, after all this pain, there is no throne, no purpose, no resolution? Only the void." This fear, the fear that your suffering is ultimately meaningless, is the single greatest weapon used against you. It is the true storm. Let me tell you a story. A parable not of a god or a king, but of a man. In an age long lost to memory, there was a master architect named Kaelen. He was not an architect of common houses or fleeting palaces. He was given a single, divine task in his lifetime: to build the Temple of Echoes atop the highest, most desolate plateau in the world. This temple was not for worship, but for resonance. It was designed with such impossible precision that if the single, correct note was sung within its central chamber, the entire structure would amplify it, and the sound would ripple out to reharmonize the discordant vibrations of the world below. Kaelen was given the blueprint, a design of celestial geometry that sang to his soul. He knew this was his one true purpose, the very mission his spirit was forged for. He gathered his tools, quarried the finest marble from the mountainside, stone that seemed to hold the memory of starlight within its veins, and began his solitary work. For the first year, there was only the crisp mountain air, the brilliant sun, and the satisfying sound of his hammer and chisel shaping the foundation. He felt a quiet joy, a sense of rightness. He was on his path, and the universe seemed to approve with its silence. He was creating his masterpiece. But the plateau was called the anvil of the gods for a reason. As the foundation was completed and the first walls began to rise, a change occurred in the sky. The air grew heavy, the light turned a bruised purple, and from the horizon gathered a storm unlike any seen by mortal eyes. It was not a storm of mere wind and rain. It was the storm of unmaking, a sentient, relentless force of cosmic entropy whose sole purpose was to test, to erode, and to dismantle anything that dared to reach for permanence. Its winds didn't just howl. They screamed with the voices of every doubt Kaelen had ever harbored in his heart. The first onslaught was brutal. Winds tore at the newly placed stones, and a scouring, acidic rain began to eat at the pristine marble he had so lovingly carved. By morning, a month's work had been undone. Kaelen fell to his knees, his heart a cold, heavy stone in his chest. Despair was a physical taste in his mouth, the taste of ash and failure. The whispers of the wind sounded like laughter now, mocking his grand ambition. It would have been so easy to abandon the blueprint, to descend the mountain, and to live a small, quiet, and safe life. The shadow of doubt told him this was a sign he was unworthy of the task. He sat there for 3 days as the storm raged, not eating, not sleeping, just watching. And in that stillness, a profound shift occurred within him. He was a builder, an architect. His instinct was to see the structure, the pattern, the design in all things. So instead of cursing the storm, he began to study it. He stopped seeing it as a malevolent enemy and started seeing it as a set of immutable, natural laws. He observed how the wind found the weakest joints, how the rain pooled in the slightest imperfection. The storm wasn't just destroying his work. It was giving him a brutal, unfiltered audit of its quality. It was a merciless but perfect teacher. This was the moment Kaelen became a Stoic, though he did not know the word. He understood that he could not control the storm. It was an external force, as vast and indifferent as the ocean. Cursing it was as useless as shouting at the tide. His anger, his despair, his fear, they were all internal responses. They were the only things he truly had dominion over. The storm controlled the weather, but Kaelen and Kaelen alone controlled his response to the weather. With this revelation, he picked up his hammer, his eyes no longer filled with despair, but with a cold, clear, and unyielding focus. His new mission was not to build a temple despite the storm. It was to build a temple that was worthy of the storm. He abandoned the starlit marble he had first quarried from the mountainside. The storm had shown him it was too soft, too vain, too easily scarred. It was beautiful, but it was not strong enough. He ventured deeper into the mountain, into the darkness, and found a new kind of stone. It was a dense, gray, unglamorous granite, veined with veins of iron. It was incredibly difficult to quarry, and 100 times harder to carve. Each cut of his chisel was a battle, each block a testament to his aching muscles and raw hands. But this stone, he knew, would not yield to the acidic rain. The storm had forced him to abandon superficial beauty for profound, unyielding strength. As he raised the new walls, he did not build them straight as the blueprint had originally shown. He had watched the wind, how it slammed against a flat surface with furious power. So he began to angle the walls, creating buttresses and curves that didn't fight the wind, but redirected it. He learned to make the storm's own energy flow around the temple, its destructive force becoming a harmless, whispering caress. He was no longer imposing his will upon the world. He was working in harmony with its harshest truths. The storm was no longer his enemy. It was his unwilling collaborator, showing him a more resilient, more intelligent design. The acidic rain continued to fall, a constant hiss against the stone. But Kaelen discovered something remarkable. As it streamed down the iron-veined granite, it created beautiful, intricate patterns of rust red and deep gray, like a living map etched onto the walls. The very agent of erosion was now an artist, giving the temple a beauty that was not static or perfect, but dynamic, weathered, and alive. He began to devise channels not to block the rain, but to guide it, turning the storm's tears into an act of adornment. He was transforming the very nature of his suffering from a destructive force into a creative one. The storm brought with it a biting, soul-deep cold that seeped into his bones. His first instinct had been to build a large fire in his hut, to fight the cold with heat. But this consumed his energy and time. He observed again. He noticed that the coldest winds always came from the north. So he redesigned the temple's northern wall to be twice as thick as the others, with no windows or doors. He built his own small living quarters directly into the lee of that wall, using the temple's own immense strength to create a pocket of stillness and relative warmth. He didn't defeat the cold. He used his creation to shield him from it, making his work itself his sanctuary. For years, this cosmic dance continued. The storm of unmaking would unleash a new fury, and Kaelen, the Stoic architect, would observe, adapt, and integrate the lesson into his masterpiece. The thunder was so loud it would shake the very foundations, threatening to crack the stone. So Kaelen learned to set the stones in a way that distributed the vibrations, so the entire temple would hum with the thunder's power but never break. The lightning would split the sky, threatening to strike the highest point. So Kaelen forged a spire of pure iron, not to defy the lightning, but to attract it, to ground its immense power safely into the core of the mountain. There were moments of profound loneliness. Weeks would go by with only the scream of the wind for company. The temptation to abandon the project for human connection was immense. During these times, he would work on the innermost chamber, the sanctum of the echo. He poured all his longing for connection, all his feelings of isolation, into the precise curvature of its walls. He realized this chamber had to be perfect not just in its geometry, but in its intention. It had to be built with an awareness of silence and solitude to truly amplify a single, perfect note of connection. His loneliness was no longer a weakness. It became the emotional fuel for the temple's ultimate purpose. The storm was relentless in its mundane cruelty as well. It would ruin his food supplies, forcing him to become a resourceful forager on the lower slopes. It would tear his clothes, forcing him to learn how to stitch leather from the mountain goats. It stripped him of every comfort, every convenience, every attachment to his old life. It forced him to become as resilient, as self-sufficient, and as much a part of the mountain as the granite he was building with. The suffering was not just shaping the temple, it was reforging the architect from a simple artist into a hardened survivor, a sage, a true master of his domain. He learned to find peace not in the absence of the storm, but in the heart of it. He learned to work during the lulls, to rest when the fury was at its peak, and to meditate to the rhythm of the constant, driving rain. The storm's presence was no longer a disruption to his peace. It was the background music to his peace. He had integrated its reality so completely into his own that to wish for it to be gone would be to wish for a part of his own reality to disappear. He had accepted the storm as his eternal partner in the act of creation, the grit in the oyster that was creating the pearl. One day, a traveler, a foolish man who had lost his way, managed to climb the plateau during a rare break in the clouds. He saw the temple, nearly complete, standing against the bruised sky. He saw its strange, angled walls, its rust-streaked beauty, its immense silent strength. And he saw Kaelen, his face lined like a map of the mountainside, his hands calloused but steady, his eyes holding a deep, unshakable calm. The traveler looked at the temple and said, "It is a magnificent fortress. You have built a mighty defense against the fury of this cursed place. You have defeated the storm." Kaelen smiled, a slow, knowing smile. He placed a hand on the cold, weathered granite, a stone that felt like an extension of his own body. "You misunderstand," he said, his voice calm and clear, a perfect note in the vast silence. I did not defeat the storm. I allowed the storm to defeat everything in me that was not essential. I did not build this temple in spite of the storm. The storm is the co-architect. Its winds showed me where the walls must be angled. Its rain showed me what stone was true. Its thunder taught me how to set the foundation. Its loneliness taught me the meaning of communion. The storm did not prevent me from building this temple. The storm is the reason this temple is perfect. Finally, the day came. The last stone was set. The final carving was complete. The Temple of Echoes stood finished. It was not the pristine, delicate marble structure from his original vision. It was something far more profound. It was a monument of scarred, weathered, unyielding strength. It looked as if it had not been built upon the mountain, but had grown out of it. It was a testament not to the denial of suffering, but to the complete and total integration of it. It was a masterpiece born of a collaboration between a divine blueprint and a relentless storm. As if on cue, the clouds of the storm of unmaking began to part for the first time in decades. A single, brilliant ray of sunlight pierced the gloom and illuminated the central chamber. Kaelen walked inside, his work now done. He stood in the heart of the sanctuary. He had built with his own pain and perseverance. He took a deep breath, and from his soul he released a single perfect note. It was a note of acceptance, of gratitude, of understanding. It was the note of a spirit that had been tested to its limit and had not only endured, but had become something more. The temple, built by the storm's own brutal lessons, caught the note. The sound did not shatter. It did not fade. It was held, embraced, and amplified by the perfectly curved walls. The note grew in richness and power, pouring out of the temple's openings, a wave of pure, harmonious energy. It rolled down the mountainside, across the plains, and into the cities of the world below. And it is said that on that day, for a fleeting, magical moment, all the world fell silent, and every heart remembered its own true song, its own divine purpose. Kaelen had fulfilled his mission. He had not just built a temple, he had become the note itself. Now, listen closely, chosen one. You are Kaelen. Your soul holds the divine blueprint for a magnificent purpose, a mission that is uniquely yours. This world, this reality, is the plateau. And the constant, relentless, and often inexplicable suffering you endure. That is your storm of unmaking. It is not a cosmic accident. It is not a punishment. It is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. It is a fundamental, necessary, and inescapable part of the sacred construction process. It is your co-architect. You look at your life and see the ruins of your past efforts, the relationships that crumbled, the careers that failed, the hopes that were eroded by harsh reality. You see the starlit marble of your innocent dreams, scarred and broken. The Stoic answer is not to grieve for this marble. It is to thank the storm for revealing its weakness. Your suffering is forcing you to go deeper, to find the unglamorous, iron-veined granite of your true, unshakable character. It is forcing you to build your life not on what is beautiful and easy, but on what is true and strong. The criticism and judgment of others, the feeling of being misunderstood, that is the howling wind of the storm. It hurts. It threatens to tear down your confidence. But if you listen like Kaelen, you will see it is showing you the weak points in your own conviction. It is forcing you to build your inner walls at an angle, to buttress your beliefs with a resilience that doesn't fight criticism, but lets it flow harmlessly around you. Your suffering is teaching you how to be so rooted in your own truth that the opinions of others become as meaningless as a passing breeze. The sorrow, the heartbreak, the deep periods of grief, that is the acidic rain. It feels like it is dissolving you, erasing your very identity. But it is only dissolving what is not essential. It is stripping away the ego, the attachments, and the false identities you have clung to. And in its wake, it is leaving the beautiful, authentic patterns of your true self. The Stoic path is to allow the rain to fall, to allow the grief to do its sacred work, knowing that it is not destroying you, but revealing the weathered, profound beauty of your soul. Your profound loneliness, the feeling that no one understands your journey, that is the cold of the mountain. It is the force driving you inward. It is compelling you to build the inner sanctum of your spirit, the one place where you can connect with the divine, with your higher self. Your loneliness is a sacred invitation to find a connection so profound that it no longer depends on external validation. The storm of isolation is what ultimately teaches you that you are never, ever truly alone. You are one with the cosmos. Stop seeing your suffering as an obstacle to your mission. The suffering is the mission. The challenges are not interruptions in the path. They are the path itself. The universe is not trying to prevent you from building your temple. It is ensuring, with the relentless pressure of the storm, that the temple you build is strong enough to hold the echo of your true purpose. A weak, untested soul cannot fulfill a divine mission. The suffering is the fire of the forge. It is the pressure that turns carbon into a diamond. It is the storm that ensures your masterpiece is eternal. This is the great liberation of the Stoic mindset. You stop wasting your precious energy fighting the storm. You stop screaming at the rain. You stop cursing the wind. You accept the storm as a given, a non-negotiable part of your reality. And you turn your entire focus to the only thing you can control, your response. You become the architect. You observe, you learn, you adapt, you build. You use the very force that was meant to destroy you as the tool to create your most magnificent work, your awakened self. The fear that whispers to you that your suffering is meaningless is the greatest lie of the shadow. The story of Kaelen shows us the truth. The suffering is what imbues the final creation with its meaning. A temple built in the calm sunshine is just a building. But a temple built in the heart of the eternal storm, a temple scarred and strengthened by it, is a legend. It is a testament. Your life, your mission, is meant to be a testament, not a mere story. You are not meant for calm waters. You were born with the soul of a storm builder. So the next time the winds of failure howl, the next time the rains of sorrow fall, the next time you feel the deep, biting cold of isolation, I want you to perform a sacred, alchemical action. Do not brace for impact. Do not curse your fate. Instead, become still. Become the architect. Look at the storm and ask this one transformative question. What are you here to teach me? Ask it with genuine curiosity. What weakness are you revealing in my design? What new strength are you forcing me to find? How can I use this very energy to build? This is the practice of amor fati, the love of one's fate. It is not a passive resignation. It is an active, joyful, and defiant embrace of all that is. You are not just accepting your suffering, you are choosing it. You are loving it as the divine tool it is. You are seeing the cosmos not as your adversary, but as your unforgiving, yet brilliant mentor. When you can look upon the hardest, most painful events of your life and whisper, "Thank you. You showed me where I needed to be stronger. You made me who I am, You have not just understood the Stoic answer. You have become it. You have become unbreakable. Your pain is not a cosmic error. It is your coronation. Every scar is a jewel on your crown. Every trial is a strengthening of your throne. You were chosen for this path precisely because your soul had the latent capacity to endure this storm and build this temple. Now the time for questioning is over. The time for building is now. The blueprint is in your soul. The tools are in your hands. The storm is your collaborator. Make a vow to yourself, right now in the quiet of your own heart. Vow to be the architect. Vow to stop fighting your fate and start building with it. Your temple is waiting, and the world is waiting for its echo. The keys to this awakening are sequential, each unlocking a deeper chamber within your own understanding. What we have done today is lay the foundation. The next transmission will require this strength. Do not lose your connection to this current of wisdom. Subscribe to Soul Cipher. Activate the notification bell. This is not about watching videos. This is about receiving the necessary codes for your mission. Prepare yourself. The storm is not ending, but you are just beginning to build.